What are structured addresses and structured remittances? And what's the difference between the two of them? So an address is the address of the person that you're sending the money to. And remittance is the details of how that, of basically what makes up the payment. So if you think of it that way. So, and then the structured bit is basically the fact that you have to provide that information in a certain way, using a certain structure for it to comply with the ISO 20022 guidelines. So what elements of a structured address are mandatory, and how best to handle some interesting or complex situations with address. So it's really interesting. So the mandatory components of a structured address are country and town, which is the same as it is today, okay, in terms of what needs to be present in an address when you make a payment. The issue is that today, because addresses are unstructured, the systems that are used in banks to check if they breach sanctions or breach kind of compliance regulations find it very difficult to know which bits in that address are what. So as an example, you might be living on 12 Russia Lane in Brighton. Well, that's going to get picked up as a possible sanctions breach because it's got the word Russia in it. Whereas when you use structured address, you would split that up into different bits. So you would have 12 would be house number, Russia Lane would be street name, Brighton would be town, UK would be country. And so you can see straight away that from a system automatically screening that data will very quickly go, okay, it's in the UK, it's not in Russia, so I don't have to flag it for kind of a sanctions check. And what we know is that sometimes there are scenarios where you can't get all elements of the address, right? So maybe you don't have a street name, or maybe you don't have a number, so, or maybe you have a building name but no street name. There's all these kind of weird variations. Again, this is bank specific now, so you will kind of need to speak to your bank to understand, well, actually, what are their systems expecting? So, and it may well be that their systems always expect a street name, and as long as you know that, you kind of know, well, if I haven't got that, it's going to get flagged. That's the kind of detail you've got to get into with it. So is structured address and structured remittance standardised, or is it going to be different depending on which bank I use? Unfortunately, it's going to be different depending which bank you use. And the reason for that is that every bank's systems are different and the way they process the data is different. So, prime example will be, one bank might be happy to allow you to not put a street name in an address, and another bank may insist that you put a street name in an address. When you look at remittance data, one bank might want you to always include, say, an invoice number, and another bank may not. So again, it's all about understanding what is it that the banks you're working with require, and that is a lot of times is driven by their internal systems. What do they need to make things flow smoothly through their internal systems?